Hello and welcome to Miss Hannah Loves Grammar. In this video we will be concentrating on Scotland's most influential poet and their national poet, Robert Burns, or as they will call him, Robbie Burns, and his most famous poem actually, I Fond Kiss, which is also the most recorded song of his poetry. He's so loved that every year on the 25th of January, in the evening, across Scotland and across the world actually, Scots people host Burns Night evenings where they quote his poetry and have a very lovely Scottish meal of haggis and the full works. His poems are often set to music, and that's because of the rhyme scheme that I'll come on to later. But this particular poem was written after his last meeting with a married woman called Agnes Mackelhauser, with whom he had a platonic love affair. So she left her husband, who was in Jamaica, and their relationship was in fact, non-sexual. But it was a really intense passion and mutual respect for each other. He penned this poem, I think, as a way of saying goodbye one last time, and perhaps a way of sort of acknowledging and managing the strain of loss. So forgive me if you are Scots and listening to this, but I am going to don a Scottish accent for this one, my own version anyway, just so I can give us a bit of authenticity as to how it would have sounded. Bear in mind though, I am not Scottish, as you can tell, and I just like to have a go at these accents. Forgive me if it's not your favourite. I fond kiss and then we sever. Aye, farewell, alas, forever. Deep in heart-wrung tears I'll pledge thee, warring sighs and groans I'll wage thee. Who shall say that fortune grieves him, while the star of hope she leaves him? Me nae cheerful twinkle lights me, dark despair around benights me. I'll never blame my partial fancy, nothing could resist my Nancy. But to see her was to love her, love but her, and love for ever. Had we never loved so kindly, had we never loved so blindly, never met or never parted, we had never been broken-hearted. Fare thee well, thou first and fairest, fare thee well, thou best and dearest. Thine be ilka joy and treasure, peace, enjoyment, love and pleasure. Aye, fond kiss and then we sever. Aye, farewelly, alas, forever. Deep in heart-wrung tears I'll pledge thee, warring sighs and groans I'll wage thee. If you're still watching, thanks and apologies if it just wasn't good enough. The title itself, I Fond Kiss, is clear Scottish dialect here. I love that about Robert Burns. He never shies away from using his own nation's speech, actually. And it's authentic. The word I means only. Only a fond kiss. Fond implies maybe great memories, but also it was only a kiss. There's nothing more. But the kiss implies passion and a rekindling of that passion as he thinks about it. For me, it's this nostalgic joy at the memory of what they had together. From the onset, this bombardment of his dialect and the way it would be sung or spoken, it resonates across this poem, actually. The thing we get from the first line is the intensity of their parting. And actually, the word sever, rhyming with the word forever, or two words importantly, which are severed, forever broken into two there, amplifies this sense of death and finality. The parting is romantic, but it cannot be rekindled again. I think across this stanza and the second stanza, we get this semantic field of romantic suffering here, with heart-wrung tears, warring sighs and groans. He's subject to torture. And this continues as we go through into the second stanza. And the capitalisation of fortune there. Who shall say that fortune grieves him? He knows that fortune will not sympathise with him. I mean, I've said the poet here, but actually it could be the speaker. We're not assuming it burns at any drastic length here, but the speaker is clear. Fortune will not definitely forgive. And it seems as if, you know, the star of hope is gone along with her. Man here is left alone in his sorrow and must suffer alone. And it's like, wow, this really is a terrible thing that they have severed. I think it's interesting. No cheerful lights, you know, they won't twinkle. Instead, he's got dark despair that benights him. That contrast of missing the light and the impending doom of darkness, you can't shy away from it. That dark despair, that alliteration, it's clear to us. He's suffering. And the joy that was her, the star of hope that could have been her, the twinkling lights, they're gone. He feels like love is pain. Straight away, this third stanza instantaneously hits us with just the connection they had. I'll never blame my partial fancy. He's like, I can't blame her. No, nothing could resist my Nancy. I think this love at first sight, this instant connection, is just echoing through the third stanza, actually. He couldn't blame her, though. There's still a fondness there, as echoed in the title. The fact he's enchanted by her memory and there's no bitterness seems really impressive. But, I mean, it seems ironic to me. He's saying, my Nancy. Well, the whole point is she's not his Nancy. The repetition of love 3 times in the third stanza, and yet again the past tense loved in the next, just onwardly showing the deep affection and true respect for the intended here. The use of the adverbs, though, in the 4th stanza, had we never loved so kindly or blindly? It's this huge whirlwind of affection, suggesting that love is blind. Just like the depiction of Cupid, he's often blind. He's saying that this has just brought us together. But he's almost reflecting in this 4th stanza on what if. If we'd never fallen in love like this, I'd never be broken-hearted. But the lamenting that things were the other way now is this sense that actually it's the loved nature of it, the past tense. He's reflecting back. And it's interesting to think that those words loved, like that are sort of broken apart, they're central in a kind of graphological sense to this poem, as well as at the heart of its meaning. That final line of the 4th stanza is just a realisation of how big the gap is. That void without her is incomplete. Never met or never parted, we had never been broken-hearted. It's that what if again. So as if he's coming to terms with it, here he is really reciting as we move on to the next stanzas, 5 and 6, just how devastated he will be at the loss of her. I love that 5th stanza for its superlative praise. You know, she here matches all his romanticised ideals. She is his first and fairest. She is the best and the dearest. And it's just ongoing joy at what personality she has, not just her beauty, her inward beauty. Thine be like joy and treasure, peace, enjoyment, love and pleasure. He wishes good things for her too. The fact he wishes joy for her is so unlike any of the poems we've seen before, which seem so fixated on the speaker as a person. This actually feels like genuine affection. The use of exclamation marks littered throughout the poem, but specifically in stanza 5, to me, just amplified this light-hearted tone and such peaceful positivity to the lover he had. The capitalisation too of the abstract nouns feels really prominent. It's not just a physical connection that he felt attracted to a woman once. No, this is a deeper emotional connection to who she was as a person. And the fact that he wishes such lovely attributes to her future is probably in part due to the fact that when he encountered her before, she had these in their present. I love the fact our speaker seeks to support the lover with the hopes he holds for her future. I don't think you'd care about a person in this way unless you genuinely sought to care for them if you could. It feels incredibly sad that our speaker is not able to witness this joy for his lover in the future. Now, as we get further in the next stanza, in stanza 6, there's a near repetition to our opening stanza, actually, isn't it? I fond kiss and then we sever. I farewell, alas, forever. So it's got a certain ring to it. It's the stagnation again of a broken heart. Alas, it's just so tragic. I like the echo throughout, actually, and what it represents of bringing us back to the opening. But it's pretty emotive stuff with this onomatic sort of focus in the final line to warring sighs and groans. The rhyme, too, between pledge and wage. There's no demeaning of our lover. The speaker knows they will suffer without her. He knows that tears will be shed. He knows that the sighs and groans that are his are inevitable. I think it's interesting too that in the original manuscript for this poem, in the opening stanza and in the final stanza, the word forever was together as one word, like this. Less final than what we have here, where it's split as two words. I think both are incredibly powerful in this beautiful love song. I love this poem's simplicity. Okay, Burns to me is a romantic, and this poem is in simple quatrains of AA, BB. Interesting to note too that the meter puts a stress on the first syllable of every line, which actually suits the Scottish accent, I think. Aye, fond kiss, and then we sever. It puts a stress on the first syllable of every line and ends each line with something unstressed. It sounds quite feminine, so the. We call it feminine endings, but it leads to feminine rhymes. This gives it kind of sad, melancholic, fading, falling rhythm, which is part of why it works as such a tragic poem. The overriding themes of this poem actually speak volumes about the intensity of passion between this speaker and the woman he loves. It's fair to say that it deserves its place as a really much loved poem in Scottish literature, because it not only attributes more than physical beauty to this woman, it speaks volumes of the affection that the speaker had for this woman. The fact that it's been made into so many songs means it's really quite famously found on many a YouTube video. So by all means, search up different versions of this if you want a better picture of how it sounds. But it's beautiful and incredibly emotive stuff.